Yes. Yes. We've got John sitting right behind you. So after we've shown this, see that guy behind you? He'll be able to help you out on that one. So just have a chat. Yeah. Cool. Well done. Sure. We've got John sitting right behind you.
I'll come and have a wee chat to you.
Okay. Alan, we've got plenty of people to help you. Thanks for putting your hand up. Okay, to anybody else? We'll carry on. Lovely. Thanks so much. Okay, I'll hand you over to John, who's in charge of the monthly digital challenge. Thank you.
Thanks, Heidi. Right, the winner, as we see, was Joe. Is Joe here tonight? Les was number 2. Les is not here tonight. Janine, is Janine here tonight? Janine, you have a chocolate fish awaiting. And we'll do the draw for the next one. So if you can give me a number between 1 and 7, please. 7. Number 7, and then a number between 1 and 23. 21. 3. Truth. Truth. Maybe a photograph, maybe not a photograph. Thank you very much. And just before I sit down, just a comment that some new members may not be aware of how the MDC works. I'll work out a summary of MDC and send it around the club just to refresh everybody's memory, because there probably are other people here that we're not aware of who may not be quite sure how MDC works, because those who've been around for a while, we just know. And we assume everybody else knows. So I'll do that in the next week or so. Thank you.
Great, well there's time to adjourn. Go and get yourselves a nice cup of tea, cup of coffee at the back, and we'll regroup again at 8 o'clock. So you've got 10 minutes, guys, and we'll get the evening programme underway. Thank you.
Just a reminder, those people interested in the NZIPP ticket, there's pen and paper on the welcoming desk if you put your name down, and we'll do a draw at the end of the night. Thank you.
Okay, if we could get our seats again, please. We're going to start thank you, Simon, the evening program. That's lovely. It's getting hot in here. Who else is getting hot in here? So if you could take your seats, please, and what I'll do is give you... Good evening, everyone who's just joined us live. Sorry, we're a couple of minutes late. Welcome to the program. If you're at home, or if you're going to watch it tomorrow, welcome. A little bit of housekeeping. If you don't know the exits, there are a couple behind me. There's one on each side of the stage, and the front door's just ahead of us where you came in. You can also hook out of here by going through these double doors. Bathrooms are located at the front to the right, so if you need to, they're just not far to go. We have a very exciting program for us tonight, but a bit of housekeeping first. Now, has anybody joined us for the 8 o'clock session who wasn't here at the 7? Can you just have a show of hands? Okay, right, welcome. We have had a beautiful gift, which is from the New Zealand Defence Force, which are 2 tickets to go to the NZIPP workshops on Friday and Saturday. So if that is something of interest for you, please put your name down on the list, which Dennis has. He's at the back. And we're going to draw out a couple of names from there this evening. So if you would like to go for free, go and put your name down. You've got about 2 seconds to do it, because we've all had a go already. Awesome. So quick heads up, what's going on. We've got the New Zealand Defence Force photographers. They're going to have a talk, and I'll hand over to Alan shortly, who is going to introduce them to us. We have had our MDC shown earlier because we had a bit of time. So if you've just come in, apologies, you've missed it. The MDC 8 for next month is truth. So we've drawn the word truth. You have until midnight tonight to put in the MDC 7, which is shadows, which closes tonight. The Laurie, which was the Laurie Thomas salon, is now New Zealand Landscape Salon, and the presentation of awards and things are next week, and we are hosting it here at the club. Doors open at 7. And we'll be doing the presentation at 7:30. So please do come along. There'll be nibbles, but nothing exciting, but a few nibbles to eat. So do have your dinner before you get here. So it's just a heads up and a warning against that one. Checking through my list. So if you haven't been to the NZIPP, that's pretty amazing. Do go. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's where they do judging of all the photographs. There's workshops. It's an absolute incredible place. I went today and listened to some of the judging, and it just blows your mind what they see in the pictures and what you didn't notice. And it's quite an incredible thing to be in that environment. So let me, without further ado, hand you over to Alan.
Is it going? Yep, it is. Well, it's quite exciting for me as an ex-RNZDF photographer to be able to welcome our 6 Defence Force photographers here. Petty Officer Weisenborn, Sergeant Vanessa Parker, Corporal Naomi James, Corporal Sean is it Spivey, LAC Andy Jenkins, and LAC Jalessa Namani. Welcome. It's really good to see you here. If we go to the next picture, that's me. That's something like 47 years ago now. That's me on the right, I think. Yeah, I think you can tell. Yeah, that's me doing a junior photographer's course. The next one, that is a job that I have memories of, and I could find a copy of it on the Air Force Museum website of a Sue helicopter that pranged. No one was killed, fortunately, but that was sort of an exciting job to get, to fly down to Wairuru from Whenuapai in an Iroquois helicopter. It took forever, but we got there. And the next job, the next shot, that's me. That's not me, but I'm behind the camera taking that photograph. That changed my life, that job, doing those jobs. I did quite a number of sorties of that, and I'll just explain it. Can you see it? If you have a look here, you'll see this great big long reefing line, and they wanted to know whether or not that was safe to not even do a 2-second delay there. I think just about pulled the ripcord before he got off the ramp, but they started to think that maybe it was going to tie itself in knots, so they stopped doing that and did a 5-second delay. Anyway, and we'll go next, and here we are back. So, are you first, Naomi? Yeah, come on up.
Yes. Sorry, just some technical stuff in between. Cool. Just making sure that this is working. Fantastic. Before we begin, I just want to thank everyone here for having us here today. I also want to thank Brian Haybiddle. So I actually know his daughter Carmen from Ahakia, and I remember he reached out to me and he said, "Oh, Naomi, I'd love if you came down to the to our society down here and presented." And I said, "Sure, Brian, I can come down on a weekend." He went, "Oh, we always meet on a Wednesday." I went, "Oh, it's going to be difficult for me to get down there on a Wednesday," but here we are, the entire team available on a Wednesday, so great. So for this presentation, I just want to have an opportunity for us to talk about our careers. Pretty much what we do now is a little bit different to Alan's days. All of us are active service, and just kind of go over how the roles changed, kind of what we do with our careers now, and the photos that we take, and the outputs that we do in the Defence Force. Sweet. Cool. So as Defence Force photographers, our role is capturing imagery and content of NZDF operations, events and activities. So some of these things you may have seen on the news, on our social media channels, and everything like that. Cool. So we also do imagery, post-production and archiving. And so that would be, we take our photos, process them on Adobe Creative Cloud and everything like that, which we can go into when we're looking at our images, and equipment maintenance as well. So we are responsible for looking after our equipment, because they do get put through some environments, which you'll see through our images. We also support Defence Public Affairs activities. So our unit is Defence Public Affairs, which has probably changed a little bit since your days. Alan, were you operational? Sweet. Yeah. So yeah, it's a little bit different now. So we used to be operational support, but now we fall under the Defence Public Affairs unit based in Wellington. And just for more information on our role, there's the Defence Careers website as well, if you have anyone who's keen to join our crew. Cool. So just going over all of us photographers, we are scattered across the country. So this is our entire team. So there's only 8 of us, kind of scaling down from Auckland. So we've got Vanessa, Chris, Andy and Jaleesa covering the Auckland region, the northern region, Whenuapai and Devonport. And we have myself, Rachel, Maddie down in Ahakia, the Manawatu, and we've got Sean just chilling solo in the South Island from Christchurch. Sweet. So this is a range of some of our photos that we've taken, and I guess got our imagery showcases. It's like a visual storytelling of domestic and international operations and exercises. We do photojournalism of major events and ceremonies. So these include things like humanitarian aid and disaster relief and royal visits. We also cover portraiture, editorial, commercial and technical imagery. So just before we kick into some of the photos, we're just going to cover our mission statement. So this is something that we've actually created recently. And so what we work towards is creating world-class imagery that inspires, informs, and showcases the invaluable contribution that the New Zealand Defence Force brings to New Zealand. And this is to encourage understanding and build confidence inside the organisation and outside the organisation. And this is through our visual documentation and storytelling. And through our photography, we showcase our organisation's outputs, the impact that we have, and our future intent across our platforms. So what are our platforms? So these cover things such as the New Zealand Defence Force Instagram. So we've got a lot of social media presence, which has been gradually increasing over the years. Definitely, we were just talking about this before actually. I think 2018 was quite a big push with our social media, kind of Facebook, Instagram. So that's been quite a big increase in engagement and keeps climbing. So a lot of our imagery and reels go up there. So there's sometimes we actually do video as well, but primarily photo. We also have our service magazines. Does anyone here read or see the Air Force News? Yep. So if you go to the Air Force Museum as well, there'll be some of these service magazines there. And we also have imagery that is used by media outlets like the Herald and Radio New Zealand. Sweet. Cool, so getting into some photos now. So this is one I took recently actually of an exercise in Waiouru. So obviously with this kind of shot, I was focusing a lot on the shutter speed. Now, I don't know if anyone's seen anything like this before, but it's a really, really difficult shot to get. And I think I was just in the right place at the right time. I remember there was a bunch of different detachments around, and so this kind of group here is like a detachment of gunners, and we have the nice mountain in the background there. And I remember just, they were doing a fire mission, so they were firing these rounds quite often. And I noticed that this detachment was getting quite a few going, and so I made sure I was positioned here at a safe distance and pretty much just set I think my shutter speed was 16th hundredth of a second, and managed to get the shot here. But what I quite like is the shape of the camnet here was kind of similar to Mount Ruapehu in the background. Sweet. So this is another shot I got, being inside a T6 Texan. So this was the P3 fly past. Did they make their way down here? Anyone remember seeing them? No, so it was just the three. So this was their final flight before they retired, and we've got the P8s now. So this was taken over the Kapiti coast as they were making their way down the country. And being in a Texan, I remember I had about 8 minutes. The pilot said to me, "Naomi, you've got 8 minutes, and then we're going to have to get back to Ohakea because we don't have enough fuel to get down to Wellington." I went, sweet as, cool, no pressure there. So I had a particular shot in mind here that I'd briefed before the flight. And so the pilot said, yep, we can make that work. So what he did is he kind of went slightly inverted, and with all the G's being pulled, I remember looking up, feeling the weight of the camera, and I just kept shooting. And that was the shot there. So got this nice reflection. Obviously, this is a maritime aircraft as well, so we've kind of got them in their environment too. Sweet. Getting a little bit creative here. So as Defence Force photographers, we are required to do ceremonial events. A lot of these are graduations, so a lot of documenting of people marching out. And so here was a little bit different in Waiouru that day. I say different, but it often snows there. And I remember getting there the night before because I was told that it was possibly going to snow and I wasn't going to make it up from Ohakea. And I woke up in the morning and it was just covered in snow. And I thought, I'm going to use this to my advantage. It's quite often when we're photographing the same things that we tend to not really push the creative boundaries. And so I used the environment to my advantage. Obviously, all this melted snow was creating a lot of reflection. So I thought, let's create something a little bit different. So in this shot here, I utilized the reflection in the puddle to create this different perspective here. So you're still seeing what's going on, just through a different angle. Thank you. Cool. But this shot here was the Anzac Heritage fly past that was happening up from Biggin Hill around Wanganui. I was actually fortunate enough to be asked by the Heritage Flight Commander at the time and Brendan Deere from Biggin Hill, hey, do you want to go in the back of an Avenger, Naomi? I said, absolutely. So I turned up that morning, got into the back of the Avenger, and I don't know if any of you are quite familiar with how the aircraft is laid out, but there's actually a little part at the back of the aircraft that you can lie down in, I think where the gunner used to be out of, and I used this little circle to actually just chuck my camera lens out of there. And the Spitfire was behind me, and the pilot of the Spitfire here is Sean Perrott, and he said to me, Naomi, if you need me to move, just poke your hand out the hole. And I thought, okay, sir, I'll do that. You know, it's not often that a corporal tells a pilot, let alone a squadron leader, what to do. So I said, sweet ass. So here we are flying over Wanganui. I made sure that, here's a little bit of a tip for aerial photography, air-to-air photography. The main thing that a lot of people like seeing is a nice spin in the rotor disc. So in order to achieve this, you've got to play around with your shutter speeds, right? And I'm talking a lot about shutter speeds at the moment. So this is 100th of a second. If I was going any faster than that, you're probably going to get like some cutting here. So, and this is different for all aircraft as well. I think it depends on the RPM of the propellers. But yeah, so I got this nice reflection. Had 2 T6 Texans here, leaving this nice little trail. And that's how I got that shot. And I actually had a text a couple of days later from someone in our team, in the social team. They said, did you realise this was photo of the week in the New Zealand Herald? I said, no. So go out and buy a few copies. So I bought maybe like 4. And my final shot is of the Australian bushfires at the start of 2020. So I got deployed with the Army engineers to Kangaroo Island, and it was actually an incredibly devastating time. We turned up after the fire had wiped through a lot of the island, and it was quite a barren landscape. So you'd walk around and you'd see all these trees that were just kind of sticks of ash, and pretty much what our job was to support the Australian Defence Force and the Fire and Emergency with any kind of duties that they needed to help with the assistance and the recovery of everything that was there. And so what that experience was often we'd drive around and we would see koalas because their homes weren't there anymore. They would just be sitting on the roads. And so here I captured this really raw moment of this Army Australian Defence Force officer and this New Zealand Defence Force soldier working together to save this koala. Got some leaves here that he's having a little nibble on. He's probably quite happy about that. And yeah, he's kind of whisked away to safety. But the reason why I wanted to show this image was that this was a very raw moment. As a photographer, capturing these photojournalistic things, it's almost like you're a fly on the wall, and you're just kind of stepping into this experience, and your camera is pretty much capturing that event as it's going on. So yeah, I feel like I've spoken enough, so I'm going to pass you over to Sergeant Vanessa Parker. Brilliant. Thank you.
Thanks, Naomi. Hi everyone, I am Vanessa, and I am actually from Christchurch, so it's really nice to be back after a long time. So I just also wanted to say I've really enjoyed this evening, and I really enjoyed this slideshow of the various images that we saw before. One of the things I really love about photography is just how diverse it is, and you know, we're getting like a snapshot of someone's perspective. And so I guess there's no right or wrong, you know, what you're looking at, but it's always different. And that's also the same with our trade. We've got, as Naomi mentioned, 8 photographers, and we're all very different. We're quite a diverse bunch, and that also is reflected in our imagery. So we're all quite different photographers, which I think strengthens what we showcase. So just going through to my images. I actually had a really tough time deciding which images to use. I've been in for about the same length of as Naomi, and so as you can imagine, we're shooting on jobs 5 times a week. We have a lot of images to go through, so I narrowed it down, and in the end I actually asked my children to pick, so here's what they've picked. So I really like this image, and I guess a lot of the images that I have picked have really great memories for me as well. And so this image was shot in Belgium as part of the 100-year World War II anniversary or commemorations. I love just how the central focus is really clear. We've got the warrior coming down the centre, and then we've got the flags and the international flag bearers kind of leading into him, and him looking quite strongly into the lens. And I feel like it's one of those images, like the more that you look at it, the more that you'll see in the image. So yeah, that's my first one. You can't be an Air Force photographer without showing an Air Force aircraft. So this is an NH90. This was taken in the Richmond Ranges, just near Nelson. And I just remember this experience of being dropped on the top of this mountain and then directing the helicopter from where I was standing to where I wanted it. And so that was quite a surreal experience, and one of those moments where I felt, really lucky to be doing the job that I'm doing. This image I really like because of the emotion that it shows. One of my favorite subjects for photography is shooting people, and what makes a successful image, in my opinion, is just being able to connect with the subject as a viewer. This guy here is taking part in a kava ceremony in Fiji, and as part of that, the rituals, they get talcum powder applied to their faces, and you can see he's just having a really great time. It was at the end of an exercise. The soldiers had all worked really hard. They just finished eating together, and then this was kind of at the end of the day. So it was like it was a really great feeling in the village. This image here was taken quite recently in the Solomon Islands, and it, I guess, just showcases the importance of shooting your subject from a variety of different perspectives, and that can really add an interest to your shot. So here I am positioned quite high on a ship looking down, and it's not typically a perspective that you might be used to seeing with your eye, similar I guess to drone shots. When you're looking down, they can be quite visually interesting, and also I just like the dynamic nature of the water, and then the contrasting colours of the the green of the water and the orange of the ship. And this image here was taken as part of the King's coronation in London last year. And, I was really privileged to go on that job. It was an amazing job. I have to say it's probably one of the highlights of my career, just having, these amazing opportunities where we get to travel all over the world shooting and having, privileged access to these areas. So this was, I guess, just a behind-the-scenes look. The soldiers were lining up at Wellington Barracks, which is near Buckingham Palace, before the actual parade started, just to have some photos. And I just like the graphic nature of it. And then you've just kind of got that person. Oh, sorry, wrong button. I won't try and there's a guy in the centre kind of looking up, which holds your focus a little bit. So thank you, that is me. And next up we've got Andy.
Kia ora everyone, my name's Andy. I'm one of the newest photographers on the team. So I don't have quite the archives spanning back years to choose from. But yeah, this is my first image. This was on a training exercise in Wairau. It was a joint exercise between our NZ Army engineers, these guys, and some US Army drone operators. So the idea was that our engineers would go out and conduct tasks in the training area, and the Americans with their drone would provide like a overwatch from above and talk to these guys, providing information. But the drone that the Americans bought couldn't fly in rain or heavy cloud or any adverse weather. I don't know how many of you guys have been to Wairau before. So it was pretty much just us out there on our own buzz. So we decided to turn the day into a bit of a photo shoot, which ended up with me hanging out the back of a pin scour with my camera down like this, and then these guys doing sort of snakies behind the thing, me giving them hand signals to come back and forwards, which was pretty awesome. It was definitely one of those like, man, I get paid for this, one of those days. Cool. This was shot on a training exercise up in Kaipara. So a reservist soldier there doing some live night firing from the top of a MHOV, which is the big 6-wheel trucks. And this was probably one of the more technical, difficult photos to capture. I was just standing there with my tripod and it was like pitch black, totally black. And then the illume flare goes up and you had about 30 seconds to get all the action, them firing. So I pretty much had to just guess focus distance and guess exposure time. I think I went with about 10 seconds and just hope that it worked out. And I like this shot. I think it's got a real like cinematic sort of movie look to it. This is a shot from a recent trip to Solomon Islands. And I don't think I've ever looked forward to a swim quite as much as this. I think the average temperature was about 36 degrees and 90% humidity. This is what they call hands to bathe. So they open the back deck of the Canterbury out like that, and then everyone can jump off the wing there, and yeah, it was pretty awesome. And this was just shot with a GoPro with a dome housing. So if anyone likes underwater photography, I can definitely recommend getting one of those. That's how you get those cool like half in the water, half out shots. And so this photo is from Kaipara again. This was a training exercise with the Youth Development Unit, where they take them out in the bush and teach them some skills. And this was a part of a cam and concealment lesson, and it was a game they play. They basically split the platoon up into two, and one half has to go and hide, and the other half comes up to like a set point, and they have to try and see how many of their counterparts they can spot. And I was sort of just wandering around while they were getting set up, and this ray of light came through the trees and shone right on this guy, which was not good for him, but great for a photo. And yeah, this one was also from the Solomon Islands. They were doing flying operations from the flight deck of the Canterbury. So they got the NH90 there that was taking off, and I sort of just looked back and saw that in his visor, and so I swung around and started taking photos of him, and he was sort of looking at me like, what are you doing, the action's over that way? But yeah, and those are my images.
Mic check. Yep, works. Firstly, thanks for having us along. Really appreciate it. It's been really nice seeing all you guys' photos as well. Hopefully from our slideshow so far you can see how diverse our role is and travel the world, so it's quite amazing. What I decided to go with was, like Vanessa, it was very hard to decide on 5 photos.
So along with the diversity of our roles, we also have our own photography styles that we like ourselves. When I graduated from ARA a few years ago, I got an award, which I'm pretty sure they made up on the day, which was for most likely to succeed as a commercial photographer. So I decided to bring that into the Defence Force and try and figure out how I could bring that style of photography into our work, and hopefully you'll see that with what I do. So you can see it's got a little bit more of an artistic style to it, I guess, as opposed to just taking a snap. I like to bring studio lighting and stuff like that into the scenes, into my jobs. I'll do a shoot first, and then afterwards usually get a few people aside and just redo a scene or something that I've liked from the activity, and we'll do it with lighting, and I can control the whole situation a bit more. So this was a medic exercise where they were qualifying the med students, who are the bottom group, and it was just bucketing down with rain, and so they had to evacuate under fire, casualty care, and get them into an ambulance to back to safety. Yes. Sorry, is that better? Cool. I'm not great with public speaking. Okay, this is for sea survival training in Devonport. Some of my ideas can be a bit out there when I first pitch it to the person. So the job request that I got through was just, can you get a photo of us in the pool using the equipment? And I thought a better way I could do it. I pitched it to the person. They didn't really appreciate what I was trying to show them, but in the end, when they got the final result, they were over the moon, really happy with it. So this is the kind of style I'm talking about, where I can just get a bit more creative and produce what I like, and then it helps out we call them clients as well. This is Recon Platoon and Tekapo. Same sort of thing. You couldn't really get people shooting when I'm standing right in front of them, so we kind of staged it, some lighting. I set one person up at a time, so there's the main person here, he's got support, and then there's somebody in the background being dragged away, so that's sort of, we call it the break contact drills. And that's probably the best way I could decide of how to illustrate that. This is for recently for Matariki. Similar concept, setting up some lights. I haven't actually told anyone this, but my 12-year-old son took the photo, because that's me standing there. So I set everything up, tested the lighting, everything, and then I got him to take the photo in the middle of the night, so he was quite happy with that. This is another situation where you couldn't normally get the photo if it was just a sort of a snap at the moment. So the snipers were in Tekapo. That's sort of my little backyard play area. Always going to Tekapo for something. Snipers were shooting away, and as you know, at night you can't really get much. You need light for photos. So after they'd done everything they needed to, I took one of them aside, set some lights up. There's a sort of a big light on his camera left, and then a small light source on camera right, just to help pop him off the background. So it's much better than having it noise ISO at 2 million and then just getting a terrible photo. So that was worth the whole trip down and back. So cool, that's me. Thank you.
I'm the newest photographer here, so I've only been here for about 3 months. I graduated recruit course in April, so yeah, I just pretty much got thrown into the job. The selection of photos I have, a lot of these things I'm doing for the first time, so I thought I'd just show you things that I was observing, and I feel like that's my kind of photography style, just observing from a distance and being a chameleon. So for this one, this was my most recent photo. This was a porphyry at Devonport Base at the marae. The Secretary of Defence was being welcomed on to base, and it was very foggy morning, and I was pretty nervous of not getting anything. But yeah, in post-production, just upping up the shadows and cropping, and yeah, just came out with this photo. This one was my first deployment. Pretty lucky to be in this job and be able to travel the world. This is in Papua New Guinea, so this when we were sent over there to provide supplies to different places around Papua New Guinea that were affected by natural disasters. And this was pretty difficult to do because we were on the ground for about like 5 minutes, and I had to get as many photos as I could to just get the shot and just show the collaboration between the Papua New Guinea Defence Force and our Defence Force. But I really liked the shot because a helicopter seemed to be flying in the distance, so I just captured that as well. And the next one. This was for a presentation for the 102-year-old veteran, Mr. Les Wright. I thought this was a pretty special moment because the Chief of Army personally came to his house on the North Shore, and I thought that was quite a special thing to highlight, like that he would come over and present to him and his family. But the reason why I like this photo is because there's 4 generations in the room. So there's Les and his great-great-grandson was there, and yeah, it was a really special moment to be a part of, and it kind of reminds me of my own family as well. This was a Navy grad. This was just after they graduated, and yeah, it was just a really great day. This was my first photography gig of a graduation, and it just reminded me of when I graduated back in April, and yeah, just like capturing them in the moment. And yeah, I happen to know the people that are hugging in that photo. I did force fit sessions, that's when you for recruit. So yeah, it was just nice to capture that moment for them. And do I have another one? Oh yes, and this photo was on the Anzac Dawn Service Memorial. Anzac Day, yeah. This photo was my first gig, and I was actually in the wrong place. My sergeant was down on the parade square, and I had no idea how to get down there, so I decided to join the VIPs. And the only way I could get down there was to just pull up my camera and pretend like I was supposed to be there. But I ended up with a really cool photo, and yeah, I just think it's a different perspective, because, yeah. Yeah, that's me.
Hey, g'day, you're all photo stars. Right, my name's Chris. I'm up at Devonport Naval Base, and we really put Gillessa in at the deep end. She'd been with us probably, well, you could look at your watch. It was hours. We sent her up to Papua New Guinea. We put her on graduations. She was, you're doing good, straight in at the deep end. So a week today, I did that one. So that was last week in the afternoon, about 1 o'clock, and. Yeah, it was hanging out the back of a Herc on a harness with a ramp down, and slowed the thing right down, and getting these fantastic shots of a German, Spanish and French were visiting us in their A400M aircraft, and that was at Ohakia, wasn't it? There with Naomi was in the German one. You're in the front one, weren't you? Happy days. And we get paid for this. Bit of diving as well. I'm in the Navy, so I'm up at Devonport Naval Base, and I do a bit of underwater photography as well, and that's a big passion of mine. So usually I like the warm water and the holiday destinations and taking pictures of clownfish and stuff like that and smiley fish. But in this case, we're blowing up some bombs, 1,000-pound bombs, So this is down at about 20 metres depth with our Navy dive team, Ordnance divers, and they blow up this stuff. And this was up in Port Vila in Vanuatu. So all up, 5 bombs were destroyed, and then they can dredge the harbour so the cruise ships can get in. So that's going to help them out with their all the tourism and that sort of thing. Yeah, ships. We've got 2 of these things. To be a navy, you've got to have a minimum of 2 frigates. Guess how many frigates we've got? So we've got Takaha and Tamana. This one is Takaha. You see the 3 letters at the back there. So F77 Takaha. And that did a recent trip around. I think it went to Wellington recently, if anybody saw that in Wellington. So yeah, love aerial photography. I mean, who doesn't love flying? You know, you get a chance to sort of, you know, this taxi thing, you jump into a Sea Sprite helicopter and you just tell the pilot where you want to go and what height you want to go, and he just does it. It's great. It's like a personal drone. This was a fairly recent one as well. This is on another ship called Manuanui, and we're doing a man overboard drill at night time. A lot of our crew on Manuanui, probably about 30% female. We're getting heaps more females involved nowadays in our military, which is fantastic. And she seemed quite happy and smiley, and she's just about to, you know, board to look for somebody. We're through this dummy, life-size dummy called Oscar into the ocean. And then you've got to go and find it. Happy days. This was heading into Tonga. This one, and not all sort of pictures. I mean, the weather was pretty bad. It was raining real hard. You can't tell that by the shot. It was quite early in the morning. I got on this little rigid hull invertible boat about 5 o'clock in the morning when it was dark. I spent about 3 hours on this thing chasing Manuanui, our ship. Weather was awful. I daren't get my Nikon D5 camera out because I'd have wrecked it because there was like waves and spray and rain coming in. That's taken on an iPhone. So I focused in on his rank tab there, and I just, yeah, don't tell the team I took it on an iPhone, but it is just a camera. So yeah, it can work. Yeah, happy days. Who wants to? Yeah, any questions from anybody that any of our team can answer? Far away. Anything? What were the bombs?
Oh, just continuous shooting, you know, finger on the shutter button, and just, I mean, obviously, like Jaleesa was saying, observing the activity as well. Sometimes, like I was saying, it's just being in the right place at the right time, making sure that your composition is what you want it to look like. And, you know, throughout that day, I photographed different detachments firing as well, and I didn't get that muzzle flash or the round coming out. So it's luck sometimes, but it's also, you know, just, yeah, setting your camera settings correct, finger on the shutter button, and just you know, a continuous shooting. Yeah. Yeah, I did. I was, because I think I must have taken probably about 30 to 50 shots, and you know, we looked through them. I saw it. I went, oh, that's the one. Yeah. So I was stoked. Stoked. Cool. Any more questions? Oh, over here. That's a great question. Actually, something I wanted to mention. Sorry, Chris. At the start. So thank you for reminding me. So myself, I have a Bachelor of Arts in Photography. I studied in England. You probably can tell by my accent a little bit. So I joined in 2016, and so my process, or the application process for me and for all of us photographers now, is to have a diploma or a degree in photography. We don't have the training that we used to back in the day. So when Alan was in the Air Force, I think you went through a photography training. Yep. We don't have the numbers for that anymore. So we join pre-qualified, and the process that we have is we go through the standard recruitment process, you know, the medical, fitness, aptitude testing. We also have to produce a portfolio, so that includes a photo essay now as well. And if we pass that, we then have a phone interview. So opportunity to ask some questions and answer some questions. And then if we pass that, we get onto Air Force basic training. So it's a fun 3 months down in Woodburn, ironing a uniform and learning how to march around the parade square, but it's a good time. Yeah. Good question. We don't, but there's opportunity there if we could. We could if we wanted to. Yeah. It's quite common. We'll be on a task, and someone will say, "Oh, you've got a pretty awesome job, eh? You photograph the highlights of the Defence Force." I'm like, yep,